What's going on, boys and girls? It's the one, the only, the Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders. Pleased to meet you. Nice to know me of the RCWR show here, coming at you with a little bit of wrestling news for this Saturday evening of April 18th, 2015. We're actually following up on a report that we have first broke to you guys here on YouTube. I believe it was on Friday, possibly Thursday, that we had broke the news as Taz had parted ways with the TNA wrestling organization. And if you guys actually have missed that, I'll make sure we put the link somewhere available on this video, one of these corners here, and also a link down at the bottom so you can check it out, because I actually gave some really great in-depth analysis on just the whole situation. But one of the things that I always try to stress to you guys whenever we hear circumstances surrounding one's exit from a wrestling organization is to take any and everything that you see and hear with a grain of salt until that source that's involved, until you hear it straight from the horse's mouth, straight from the source. Take what you see and hear with a grain of salt until they open their mouth to speak on the matter. And I told you guys as we were talking about the news with Taz that, ultimately it would be up to him to break his silence and talk about what were the circumstances surrounding his exit. He did talk about it as he had released a new human suplex a new episode of his human podcast machine. Forgive me there, Taz fans. I'm still kind of checking it out from here and there from time to time. I don't have the official name down yet, but I actually went out of my way to download it, check it out. It was a little bit over 30 minutes long, but I mean, the 30 minutes just flew by real quick. I actually have just a couple of quick bullet points. So if you see me look down at the screen from time to time, I'm just going over the bullet points that I took from the show. But I think for the most part, I can actually remember and hear what all he had said on his podcast. First off, as far as repercussions that was going to be taken against him for not showing up in Nashville to do the TNA tapings and all that, according to Taz, that is 100% false. He was never in any type of a situation where there was going to be repercussions. He told TNA it wasn't even a situation where he told them at the last minute he wasn't coming. He told them from what he said, at least days in advance, that he wasn't going to be able to do the shows. And if anything, he said TNA was actually very apologetic to him, that they understood his position, because even though he didn't come right out bluntly and say it, as you're listening to it, it's very easy to just read it between the lines and get the meat and potatoes of probably what ultimately led to him leaving the organization, which basically had to do with pay. As he noted that there were some discrepancies as far as him being paid, and he said that at the end of the day, TNA, they hired him, and he's supposed to bring them X amount in his abilities as a broadcaster, as a commentator, a play-by-play man, and he lives up to those obligations, those business obligations, and they're supposed to live up to their obligations, which is to compensate him for the services which he provided to that company. And basically, that's where you have a little bit of failure in communication, because TNA, they didn't pay this man promptly, and according to Taz, basically he had to do what he needed to do because he's in this field, he's providing a business, and he really stressed that because he felt that a lot of wrestling fans, they get so caught up with the characters that they see on TV, and that they have a little bit of a hard time separating, okay, this is just a character that I'm seeing on my screen. This isn't how this person acts in real life, as his whole deal is he has responsibilities to his family, bills need to be paid, and he has to do what he has to do. And I think when you kind of read it between those lines, how many of us haven't been in that type of a situation with an employer where they're not giving us enough hours, or the pay is very little, or maybe everything is good with the job, but I tell you, there's no benefits, and you're like, man, I hate to leave these guys, but they're kind of putting me in between a rock and a hard place. I may have to go out. I may have to try to find something else that, you know, because I got mouths to feed. I got my family relying on me. So I think when you hear that, you're like, okay, can understand where he's coming from that standpoint. So he did what he needed to do. Now, he did stress that a couple of days later, whatever TNA was supposed to pay him, whatever back money that was due to him, he did get it. It was late, came a couple of days later after, he already said. And apparently, as far as his exit goes, this exit was planned like a couple of weeks in advance that he was going to be leaving, because apparently his current contract with TNA, it was supposed to expire during the summer, but he talked with them, and he was kind of weighing in his options, thinking about the future, and he basically told them that he wanted to go in a different direction, and he said that you can definitely probably get a straight up answer from Dixie Carter and TNA Wrestling, not to toot his own horn or anything. He wasn't trying to come off conceited, but TNA, they definitely wanted him to stay. They asked him if this was something that he really wanted to do, and he said, yeah. And it was a mutual thing. They just went on ahead and shook hands, went their separate ways. And then all this stuff about Taz, reason why he left was because he hates Josh Matthews. I don't know how the hell that got started, what websites were running with that storyline or whatever, but that's 100% false. According to Taz, as just to prove his point, and he brings up a damn good point. Apparently, and I didn't know this, Josh Matthews has a show on the same network that Taz is a part of, and the way that all had came about, CBS or Play.it execs, they came to Taz and they were like, hey, we're kind of looking into maybe having there be a show that kind of caters towards this category, this demographic. We want this target audience. Do you know of anybody that, maybe could help us out, that could maybe cater to those needs? And Taz actually recommended Josh for it. So, in essence, Josh has his own podcast going on thanks to Taz doing the word of mouth. So I don't know that many people that, hate somebody, doesn't want to work with somebody that would put them in a position like that. He said that him and Josh are friends. They go back to WWE. They go back to when they were doing color commentating for SmackDown and all that. So I don't know why that report or that rumor, false rumor at that, was started, but definitely very silly. He also talked about how basically this whole Josh Matthews thing was brought up because Taz didn't want to work with Josh. He wanted to work with Mike Tenay, and just false, false, false. He couldn't help but put over Josh. He also put over Mike Tenay, talked about how much he loved working with that man, how the two of them became really good friends, how they would go out after they got done, doing taping for Impact or doing commentating. They would go get something to eat, go smoke a cigar, have some beers. Called him a good friend. Also pointed out that despite Taz no longer being affiliated with TNA, Mike Tenay is still going to be dropping by Taz's podcast to do the fantasy drafts that they usually do once a month, along with Taz producer Seth. So he says the door is wide open. Mike wants to continue to do that. He's more than welcome to, but as far as he know, they're going to be hooking up to do that. Other things that were brought up, let me just check my notes right here. That was mainly it. That was mainly it. I mean, he did a really good job in putting over TNA Wrestling. He said he wasn't going to go the two-face, backstabbing type of route that you see most wrestlers do, in particular those that leave the TNA or the WWE promotions and just go on this whole negative smear campaign and all that, good and all that. They all this. On the contrary, Taz said, he doesn't have anything negative to say about them, and that anybody that is familiar with his podcast, that, from here going forward, he's going to continue to do what he's been doing on his shows, which is review wrestling products that's out there. That also includes TNA. Furthermore, if he sees something that TNA is doing right, he's going to give them praise. If he sees them doing something that's just totally wrong, downright silly, he's going to throw in the flag and he's going to talk about it, plain and simple. But he wished Dixie Carter, most importantly, the boys in the back that work at TNA, everybody, he gave them nothing but praise, put over the producers. He put over Vince Russo, Dave Lagana, Bob Ryder, Eric Bischoff, Matt Conway, John Gubrick. I mean, he just had nothing but classy things to say. And, I will say this. This is one story that we're working on for our Tuesday night podcast edition of the RCWR show. And that's just the magnitude, in particular, just wrestling in general. But we're definitely going to put the spotlight on TNA wrestling, because it just seems like every time you turn around, we keep hearing this thing about wrestlers that's like not getting paid, and they're either getting paid late, or it's like weeks since they last got paid, or it's a couple of months. Basically, they're backed up. And we're just hearing these people just air out their grievances and all that throughout social media. And even if they aren't airing it out on social media, they're obviously talking to the wrong people, whoever it is that they're confiding in. They're confiding in the wrong person, because that person is thus going and releasing stuff that just, it reminds me of a fun analogy, which is basically, hey, did you hear about the lady that broke her leg after she tripped over a bicycle? Take that, and I guarantee you, if you just try to take what I just said to 500 people, mention that same story to 500 people, just keep repeating it over and over and over. Man, by the time it gets to the 500th person, you're going to hear that that woman is an amputee, and something about she was in a meat shop and she tripped over apparently a small bicycle that had no business being there, and her leg went into a meat processor machine, and that's how she lost her leg. Stories just has a weird way of just bending the more and more people that hear it. And I know Havoc, she wrote a very lengthy blog, I think, on Facebook about the whole pay issue thing. I know Matt Hardy spoke about it. I'm trying to think. Manic, I know he spoke about it as well. TJ Perkins, I know he spoke about the situation, but that's just one story I'm working on. I'm definitely going to put the spotlight on that and just put my 2 cents in on all this crap that's going on with people complaining about their pay rate, all that stuff. But, I appreciate Taz keeping it classy. And I mean, a lot of folks, especially in the TNA wrestling promotion, they can learn a lot from the way Taz addressed himself. And this is something that Taz he's just trying to look good so that he can eventually maybe get a job with TNA wrestling again. If you've been following the career of Taz as long as I have, he's one of the most outspoken people that's out there. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's not going to hide behind power suits or, oh, well, this person's hooking him up with this, so he's got to kind of kiss their ass a little bit. He's going to freaking call it how he sees it. And I would think by now that, he's built that reputation to the point where if he's saying something, you could take it at face value for what it's worth, because he's never really given you a reason to doubt him, or never giving you a reason to feel as though he's lying to you. And I just think that, I'll say this, I think more people in the TNA wrestling promotion, guys and gals, if you have a problem with your pay, don't air it out to anybody on social media. You know, I mean, whoever you go to bed with at the end of the night that you're sleeping next to, and you know they don't have anything to do with the wrestling business, I mean, by all means, go on ahead behind closed doors, like that Johnny Gill song goes. Go ahead, talk about it or whatever like that. But like talking about it in the workplace amongst your peers, I don't care how comfortable you may feel with them. Don't talk about your money. And that's something that Taz did talk about candidly during his interview, which was never, when he was working for like ECW all the way up to now, never was he concerned about how much money somebody was getting. The only damn thing he cared about was what was he getting. That was it. Because he had to provide for himself, eventually he had to provide for his family. It didn't matter, you know, and he was in many positions where he could have found out, if he really wanted to, how much this wrestler was getting or how much this color commentator was getting. But far as he was concerned, it was none of his business. The only thing that mattered was what was going on with him and his finances, because he was providing a service, he was doing his job. And I think that's, you know, that just does not apply to TNA. That just applies to like everybody. You know, I mean, I can relate to this because I mean we have so many people, like, at least from what I've experienced over the years, the various jobs I've had, we've had people that's like, you know, how much do you get paid? And it's like, you ain't sleeping with that person. You're gonna be like, that's none of your business. That's a rude question to ask, you know. So I don't know why this continues to be a constant theme for TNA wrestling, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. That's just a little teaser right now. I have a lot more to say with regards to that, but those of you that checked out the human podcast machine episode, I definitely want to hear what you all have to say. So post your comments down below. If you did not listen to it, even more the reason why you should check out this episode description. I actually provided a link for you guys to check out. You can either check it out on the Play It site directly, or you can download it on iTunes, whatever respective platform you have, various ways that you could check it out. It's free. Doesn't cost you a dime. 30 minutes goes by real quick. And, you know, while you're at it, take the time out to give Taz a holler on Twitter, you know, after you get done listening to it. And, you know, if you're like me and you're tired about hearing all this BS crap about, oh, pay this and the pay's not enough, or I'm late, you know, if you're frustrated like me and you really come away after you get done listening to Taz and you're like, that's how you lay it down, definitely hit him up on Twitter and let him know, hey, good solid words that you said right there. Good way to keep it positive, keep moving forward, keep evolving. That's the name of the game. Meantime, that's going to do it. Those of you that's looking for radio excerpts of the RCWR show, I'll probably be uploading them tomorrow, way before the NBA playoffs begin. So feel free to come on back here and check them out. And in the meantime, for you gamers out there, I did quietly upload our WWE 2K mobile review for the iOS. I reviewed it for the iPad. If you guys are curious if it's a game you should check out, as right now it has a price tag of $8 in North America. If you're a little bit on the fence, check it out. I give you guys not only my overall thoughts about it, but I give you guys actual real-time gameplay footage to let you see how the game plays and all that, and the graphics and all that. Some good stuff. Check it out. First time checking us out, love to have you subscribe so you never miss out all the great content we do for you here on a weekly basis, whether we're breaking news, reviews, we're doing some slamming interviews. We do a little bit of something for everybody. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and do give this a thumbs up, as when you do, you're showing your support for us YouTube video creators. That's going to do it. Follow us on Twitter at the RCWR Show, Facebook, Infinity One Productions. Miss those links? Check them all out below. Till next go round, be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. We'll see you next go round. Everybody, do take care.